Of course, there is a disadvantage at this time of identifying as African because you run the risk then of being enslaved, but at least you wouldn't be removed necessarily.
For some Indians, identifying as Native or Black has become complicated due to the issue of slavery. For example, Cherokees sometimes enslaved Blacks in the early 19th century, not so much out of racism as out of imitation of the Southern white planters around them. Eventually, these slaves were freed at the time of emancipation during the Civil War. These Cherokee freedmen discovered that the United States government, under the Dawes Commission, treated them as much less than equal citizens.
Around the turn of the century, the Cherokee were once again part of a government operation known as the Dawes Commission. And at that time, the land which we held in common at one time for time immemorial became individual allotments to Cherokee citizens.
Indeed, the whole construction of the Dawes roll by which Indian nations were allotted is based on the assumption that blood quantum, that is the degree of any particular ancestry, white, Indian, Black, the degree to which you are one of those determines certain cultural characteristics. That is, how able you are to manage your allotment.
It was at that time that the separation as citizens between Black freedmen and Cherokee by blood was made. The Cherokee freedmen, if they were not also Cherokee by blood, were not given an allotment and thus were not part of the Dawes enrollment process.
A lot of knowledge that's been erased. The fact that freedman was never in my vocabulary, I never heard that in terms of a designation of my family history. My father always talked about being of part Choctaw ancestry, but his father, who died in 1940, my grandfather, was on the roll as a Choctaw freedman. The last person in our family who died, who was on the Dawes rolls, just died this year. She was 94. She was a Choctaw freedman newborn. And when I spoke with her, and whenever I would talk to her, she would always talk about, well, Grandma was Indian, of course, but she never, and I'm part Indian, but she never referred to herself as freedman.
By the 1960s and 70s, self-identification began to carry increasingly intense political meaning, which did not promote harmony between Blacks and Indians.
If a man has not discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live.
Beginning in the late 60s, Black power advocates stressed roots and ethnicity in transforming Black from a racial category to an ethnic one, dedicated to political action and group betterment.
It would be fitting and symbolic that ships from all over the world entering the Golden Gate would first see Indian land, and thus be reminded of the true history of this nation.
Although red power soon gained currency, the civil rights movement at first tended to create tension between the different agendas of Blacks and Indians in modern America.
Now, if you move up to the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, what's the advantage there of identifying as either African or Indian? Well, this is all tied up in the civil rights movement. The 60s or 70s, the currency there was Blackness.
I had a lot of problems in the Black community, and they got progressively worse as I got older, and I think part of it was the knowledge that Black people were having, the raising of Black consciousness with the Black Panther Party and Black Power. And I remember Angela Davis. I remember AIM and Wounded Knee.
Shout outs to Mike TV. It's helping me get my genealogy and tribal affiliations in order. I'm actually going to go to a family reunion this coming weekend. So shout out to you, Mike. And I got faith that you're going to make it happen. You know what I mean?